is the next leader of the Jewish people in secret. Nobody knows about it yet. Because there can only be one leader at a time, he instantaneously received the power, the Spirit of God, which was simultaneously taken away from Saul. And Saul was felt that whatever was in him, the support that he got, the Spirit of God that he got, disappeared, and he felt emptiness. He felt he didn't know how to deal with it, and that threw him into depression, into ruach ra'ah, bad spirit. He felt very, very bad, and he was scared, as such he sought help. He wasn't afraid of listening to his advisors, who told him, "Listen, you need help, and we can probably find help for you with music therapy." He was looking for a good musician. And someone, Doega Adomi, one of his advisors, suggested that there is a kid, Nar, the son of Ishai, in Bethlehem. And he is a person that's not only a good musician, he has several other qualities that will make him fit within the palace. You can't just get, a musician off the subway to play in your palace. So he wanted somebody good, better, special. So he sent to Ishai, asking Ishai, the father of David, to send him for an interview, which Ishai promptly complied with, and sent him for an interview with some gifts and stuff. And Shaul liked David right away and hired him, sent his father a request. "I want the boy to be here, help me permanently not all the time 24/7, but get the palace musician, or the king's musician, and violinist. Actually, he was playing a violin, which is more of similar to our harp rather than a violin. But that's where we left off. God was arranging the whole world to turn in such a way that David would become from a nobody, an unknown quantity. He was shunned by his own family. He was not really. He was an outcast because they didn't really think that he is a full brother of theirs. The point was that how can he be a king later if nobody knows about him? So one of the ways God arranges things is let's do it naturally, and let's get him close to the center of power, and slowly people will know about him. So Vaishlach, 16:22, Tetzayin Chavbet, Vaishlach Shaul el Ishai lemor, Ya'amod na David lefanai ki matza chen be'enai. So Shaul requesting from the father the permission to take David, because David, as we might recall, was in charge of the cattle for his father, which now means that when David is not around, he will need to hire someone else, pay someone else, figure out what to do with his cattle. So Shaul found it necessary to straighten it out with the father. So he takes his he will borrow his shepherd, and Vaya biyot. So Ishai, of course, agreed. Vaya biyot ruach Elohim el Shaul. So when the Spirit of God, now you see, it's very interesting. Before we said that the Spirit of God was taken away from him, and he it was filled with bad spirit. Turns out that that's also the Spirit of God. God sent him something which is not favorable, which is not helpful. So when he felt this wind of depression or wind of scared, of being scared, of fear, setting, ולקח דוד את הכינור, so David would take the harp, the violin, וניגן בידו, and he played, ורווח לשאול, and Shaul felt instantaneously better, וטוב לו, and he felt he had a better mood, וסר מעליו רוח הרעה, and that bad spirit that crept in disappeared. It's as if there was that one spirit in the room, and when David expressed it, it scared away the bad spirit that Shaul had in him, to start to get him to understand that it's maybe more than just playing. It's not just the Mozart that he was playing. It's something beyond that. Okay. And that is the conclusion of the chapter. Now we're going to go into chapter 17. And chapter 17 is the introduction of drum beats, Goliath. Okay? The 15 minutes of fame or shame of Mr. Goliath, which was more of 40 days of fame. This is the story. We're going to go into it in details. It's, I guess it's going to be fun. So, we're talking about the fourth war of the Philistines. The first war in that many years. In the past 10 years or so, 12 years. 11, 12 years. The first war was when the ark was captured. The two sons of Eli, who was the priest for 40 years, were killed. The ark was captured. We lost badly, and the Philistines basically won. We will see later that Goliath is showing off by saying that he is the one that killed the two kids. They're not kids, they were old men at the time. He killed them, and he took the ark. We will see how he's boasting that he did that. The second war was then the ark was 7 months in captivity. Then he came back. Then Shmuel gathered the troops and attacked the Philistines again in the same spot where we lost, and at this time we won. That's the second war. The third war was already about 10 years later when Saul became a king. One of the first things at the second battle that happened, his son, Jonathan, and his helper single-handedly started a war and almost ended it, and killed a whole bunch of Philistines. The Philistines ran away. We chased after them. We were not able to finish the job before nightfall. Night fell, and at that point the battle stopped, and Saul didn't get permission to continue it. And so that's where we ended up with the Philistines right before that. I mean, we killed, Jonathan killed the Philistine governor of Israel at the time. So now the Philistines somehow are not giving up, and they are feeling stronger now. I guess Goliath had convinced them, or he became, they felt that they have an ace under their belt, and so they are gathering, ויאספו פלישתים את מחניהם, so למלחמה. They gathered to start a war with us, unprovoked from us, from our side. ויאספו סוחו, אשר ליהודה. The Philistines' territory was along the Mediterranean. And until now, for the past 3 wars, they would go straight east basically the route of, highway number 1 nowadays. Go straight toward Yerushalayim. Going through the territory of Binyamin. The tribe of Binyamin was a smaller tribe, one of the smallest tribes after the disaster, after we almost wiped him from the face of the earth several years before that. He was small, he was weak, and the Philistines found it easy to go through their territory, and that was their approach to attack us. Now, the king is from Binyamin, which means one or two things. Either they were afraid, and they didn't want to go through Binyamin, or they felt so strong that they felt that they can go through the stronger tribe, Yehuda. They didn't bother to go through the weaker tribe, either because he was weak or he was strong, and that's why they went through Yehuda at this point. So they went south, and from south they came from the Hebron area. They went up, and they parked somewhere south of Bet Shemesh. That's where they parked. If you know geography today, south of Bet Shemesh. ויחנו בין סוחו ובין הזקה באפס דמים. So they parked, they set up camp between Sochu and Azekah, two towns which we know very well where they are nowadays. They have excavations and archaeological digs that were very active in the past few years. In a place called Ephes Damim, or they got there without shooting an arrow, without a shot. The Ephes Damim, with no bloodshed. They basically were walking into the center of the territory to Washington, D.C. in the center, and nobody said a word, which is pretty embarrassing in and of itself. ושאול ואיש ישראל נאספו ויחנו בעמק האלה. So Shaul and all of the Jewish army gathered, and we did not set up camp too close to them. We were afraid. So we did it in a southern part, which is Emek Ha'ela. Emek Ha'ela, nowadays, very good wines from Emek Ha'ela, highly recommended. It's the Elah Valley. ויערכו מלחמה לקראת פלישתים. And they started practicing and started preparing for a war against the Philistines, digging trenches and practicing their moves, etc. ופלישתים עומדים על ההר מזה, וישראל עומדים על ההר מזה. Now, והגיא ביניהם. So the Philistines were standing on one mountain. When they saw us, they also retreated. So neither army wanted to really look for bloodshed immediately. What was happening is, why did the Philistines do that? The Philistines were they were subjugating us. We were their slaves for many, many years. And suddenly now, after the war, the war number 3, we were no longer their slaves. We had a king, and we were becoming a nation that's recognized by the other nation, by the UN at the time. And so they lost, and they didn't have, because they were their territory was around where Gaza is today, where Ashkelon and Ashdod, a very small piece of land on the Mediterranean. They didn't have anybody else around them. On the southern side, they had a desert with some Amalekites running around, but they didn't have anybody that they can take over and regain the slaves. So they were going wherever the only place they knew where to find slaves, and that is in Israel. So they came to us, but they were afraid because they didn't want to kill the slaves. They wanted to scare us to become slaves. They didn't want to. So they were standing on one mountain, we were standing on another mountain, and there was a valley in between. Everybody seeing what's going on, and as it usually works when two armies are positioned against each other, they start with talking, right? So they send a man to the valley to talk. And who is this man? This is our favorite guy, Goliath. ויצא איש הביניים ממחנות פלישתים. So the middleman, איש הביניים, the middleman, who was came from with the white flag, but I don't think he had a white flag. He came and his name was Goliath Shmo Migat. He's the guy from Gat. גובהו 6 אמות וזרים. He was a tall man. The tallest NBA player ever is 7'7". He was about 10 feet. Okay, 10 feet tall. That's a nice center. Now, who was Goliath? Goliath was the son of Orpah. Orpah was the sister-in-law of Ruth. If you recall, in the beginning of the book of Ruth, we had two brothers, the two sons of Elimelech, Machlon and Kilion, marrying two princes from Moab, princesses from Moab, Moabites. One of them is Ruth, and another one is Orpah. And when the two husbands died, Naomi, the mother of the two sons, came back to Israel, and that's when one of them, Ruth, joined her, and one of them, Orpah, kissed her, cried, and left, and remained and went away. Now, this Orpah, when they had this moment of saying goodbye, Orpah cried. Not too much, 4 tears. She shed 4 tears. She cried. And on account of that, she merited to have 4 great sons. And even in those days, a normal person would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 feet tall, and she got a 6-footer. Okay, a six amot. Someone would be 4 amot or 3.5 amot, and she got a double-sized kid. So she got 4 kids for the 4th years. Now, the 3rd kid was Goliath. So he was a sandwich boy, right? And that's one of the interpretation of Isha Benaim, the middleman, the middle boy. Okay, he had this the complex of the middleman. So what? The middle giant. The middle giant, exactly. But there were 4 giants. Later on, in a few chapters, we'll see that David is launching a war against the other 3 and getting rid of the other 3. Now, he is the one that was at the forefront. Now, the description of the height is very exact. 6 amot and zeret. Zeret is the distance between the thumb and the pinky. Okay, so it's 6 amot, 6 of those plus that. So it's very exact. How do we know? We measured him. They had it. They had the stats, and the Philistines has its stats published. And after we killed him, we were able to measure him. We were able to measure everything that belonged to him, and we will see. It's very detailed to, I guess, to provide more authenticity to the story. So this Isha Benaim, some said that it was also called Benaim from the word binyan. It was like a refrigerator, like a building, walking building, a big man. So, and then we go into 2 sentences, 2 psukim, 3 psukim describes exactly the way he was outfitted with his armor and his weaponry. So, started from the top, he had a helmet. וכובע נחושת על ראשו. He had a helmet made out of copper. ושריון קשקשים, and he had armored, scaled armor. הוא לבוש, he was wearing it, ומשקל השריון 5,000 שקלים נחושת, and the way he was very heavy, 5,000 shkalim of copper, which is the equivalent of about 210 pounds nowadays. You know, it's significant to run around with that. Plus, and this is just the armor. You know, that's just the top part. ומצחת נחושת על רגליו. Now, if you've ever been to a museum and you saw some of those ancient helmets, they would have in the middle some sort of a nose piece, because they wanted to make sure that the sword does not slice the head, right? So they had protection. Now that middle piece, this nose piece, went all the way down to his feet, to his legs. Okay? It was a very long one. וכידון נחושת בין כתפיו, and he had a spear of copper between his shoulders. What does that mean? There are two explanations. One opinion is that it was a spear, so he was walking around with a shield in one hand not a spear, a sword on the other hand. So he had a sword in one hand, and if he needed a spear, he would just reach behind his back and get the spear out. That's one explanation. Another explanation is that just like we had in the front, the nose piece, to protect him, he had another piece, a pole, in the back, going from the helmet down the shoulders, so to protect him from a sword, beheading him from behind. ועץ חניתו כמנור הורגים. Now, the sword that he had, the spear that he had, was very, very heavy. In those days, in order to weave, they used a loom, right? And the loom there are several kinds of looms. The loom that they used, and it's really the one that was found in archaeological digs or found some remnants of these looms from those days, was a loom that's called a warp weighted loom. The warp, those are the wires that right, warp, right. Those are the wires that go up and down. They were hanging. They were holding a weight, a very heavy weight, and then you would weave the weft, whatever. You would weave in between those warp strings. Anyway, the weight was very, very heavy in order to keep it tight. That was, and apparently it had a standard type of a weight, and that was the weight of his spear. Usually we think of a spear of something thin that can fly far, but he had no problem throwing something very heavy far. So that's ועץ חניתו כמנור הורגים, מנור הורגים, this is the weight of the loom. ולהבת חניתו, and the blade of the spear, that in and of itself was 600 שקלים ברזל, that was about 12 pounds. Just the warhead. Now, the blade is called lahevet. Lahevet is coming from the word lehava, from the word fire, because it was so shiny that it looks like a fire at the tip, at the end of a candle. So, and it was made out of iron. And ונושא הצינה הולך לפניו. Now, because he had all of these sophisticated and heavy weapons, he didn't have enough where to hold, or the ability or where to hold a shield for the lower part of the body. So he had with him another person that their whole mission in life was to hold the bottom part of the scale armor was on top, and on the bottom part, the legs, he had a person holding a shield in front of them. This is one opinion. Another opinion is that the tzina is actually more of a like an umbrella, so to block the sun while he's having his fight. The point is that he was very cumbersome, he was very tall, he was very heavy, and he didn't value speed and flexibility and movement. He felt that, with one or two whacks, he can overcome everybody, and we will see in a second that it worked for him. Anyway, so this gentleman, imagine with all of the hundreds of pounds of stuff on him, Vayamod vayikra el marachot Israel. He stood up in the center of the valley, and he called to the troops, to the Jewish army. Vayomer lahem, and he told them, Lama tetzu la'aroch milchama. Why are you coming to do a war, to fight with me, to battle me? הלא אנוכי הפלישתי ואתם עבדים לשאול. ברו לכם איש וירד אליי. What he was saying is something very simple. You were our slaves. Now you're a slave of Shaul, of your king. What's the difference? Come back to us. You had it good with us. Be our slaves. You pay taxes anyway. Just write the check to a different address, send it to a different tax office, and finish. Why are you making a balaga business here, And bring one man to fight with me. Now, before we're going to go into a little more details, I want to read for you the Targum Yonatan. The Targum Yonatan is adding a little bit more color as to what was transpiring over there. What was he saying? So I'm going to read it in English straight because it's in Aramaic. So he stood up and declared and pronounced, talking to the troops, to the Israeli troops, and he told them, why are you going out to war? I'm a Philistine, and you are the slaves of Shaul. I am Goliath the Philistine from Gath. That I'm the one who killed the two sons of Eli, Chofni and Pinchas. That's the stick. And I also I captured the Ark of the Covenant, and I took it to my hometown, to my place, to Bet Dagon. Not hometown, but to their central location. And he was there. It was there for 7 months. And every other battle that we had, I am the one that took it in the head of the army, and I won. And everybody would die in front of me like the dust of the earth. And even though I was so instrumental, and I was so successful, and I was so skilled, I did not receive the 4-star general. I did not become a Rav Aluf. I did not receive the rank of a general. Meaning, we have stronger people than I am. Otherwise, I didn't. So beware, people. You see me, and this is my resume. We have stronger people behind. Vatun bnei Israel, and you, Jews, how strong are you? And what did Shaul ben Kish do to you, that you made him your king? If he's a man of strength, step up and fight me. And if he's a weak man, which that's not written over there, but which I assume he is, please find another man and send them down my way. So, in the olden days, not so old in England and in Europe, you had the concept of duels, right? You had a disagreement, you set up the rules, They are judges. You come into a place. You're equipped with the same with the same weapons, and you have a duel. And whoever wins, and it's documented. And it was a legal form of solving disputes, which sometimes I think we should bring back. The point is that there is a disagreement amongst the commentaries if this is what was presented here. Bring one man and let's see. I mean, we want you as slaves. You don't want to. You want to be slaves of Shaul. So let's solve the problem with the duel. The Abarbanel say no because it was not documented. There were no judges. There was no agreement. There was no the weaponry was not equal. That's what the Abarbanel say. But the Malbim disagrees and says that actually, if we read it, we had a negotiation session with this Ish Benai, with the middleman, and he started by offering a duel, and then the Jews refused, and he would. So what happened is he upped the antes, and he told them, listen, and this is the next verse. Im yuchal ilachem iti v'ikani, if he can fight me, that man that you'll select, he's going to smite me, and we will be your slaves. So what they're saying is, listen, we're giving more than you're giving. You're either way slaves. You were slaves before, you're slaves now to Shaul, so you're just going to change a master. We are not slaves to anybody. So we are giving more. He was trying to convince them to go ahead with the duel. But if I am going to be successful and I'm going to smite the person that you're going to send, you'll be our slaves. So this is the second offer. Not just the first offer was you were our slaves, just now you're not, come back, let's have a fight about that. They said no. You know what? We will be your slaves, so it's more equal. The Jews said no. So then he said, you know what? The heck with all of you guys. Let's go the hard way. I am cursing the army of God, meaning to say God Himself. Hayom hazeh. Bring someone here, and we're going to have a war together. And basically, what? Or basically, it's either that or we're going to have a real war. He was trying, like the third offer was, we're not going to be your slaves, but you better choose your options, choose your poison. You want to kill one guy, or you want to all go.
So there's reason to understand that the Jews were answering in between to the
Yes, according to the Malbim, the Jews were kept refusing. We don't negotiate with terrorists. Okay? Vaishma Shaul now, however, Shaul, knowing the fact that Shmuel is no longer with him, Shmuel would not see him till the day he died. Shmuel, just left. That support is gone. And he felt within himself that the Spirit of God is gone. And all he got is this depression that comes and goes, the music. And he felt bad. So, Vaishma Shaul v'kol Yisrael divrei HaPlishti, so Shaul and all the Jews heard it, divrei HaPlishti ha'ele, vaychatu vayiru meod, and he was scared, because he realized that he's not necessarily going to be successful now, and there is a lot more to lose. When he was just looking for his donkeys, there was one thing to lose. Now he's the king of all the Jews. There's a whole lot more to lose, and he was scared, and he couldn't get himself to send the person or to go himself. He basically felt that if he's going to go, he's going to die, and that'll be the end of it. Okay, so just like in a good movie, we change scenes. V'David ben Ish Efrati hazeh. So now we're going back to David. David, the son of of this very important person from the Shevet Ephraim, from the city of Ishafartir, meaning a very important person. Bethlehem sits in a region that's called Efrat, Mi Bethlehem Yehuda, that belongs to the tribe of Yehuda. Shmuel I, Velo Shmona Banim, and he has 8 children, which we saw already. Why are we saying it again? Vaish b'mei Shaul zaken baba yamim, and that man at the time of Shaul was very old, baba anashim. He was a very respected person. Wherever he would go and set up, give a shiur, give a lesson or a lecture, thousands of people would arrive. He was very, very old. Why are we saying it here? We're saying it because we will see in a second that only 3 of his children, of the 8 children, went to the army. So they're coming to teach us several things. Number one, when there was a war, it was not automatic draft for all of the kids. They didn't want to take the entire family and put the entire family in jeopardy, for obvious reasons. So they took some of the boys. Also, he was very old. And when he was very old, he needed care. In those days, you couldn't just, pick up the phone and order sushi, They needed to work to make it all happen. So if he wouldn't have care all the time, a few days he would be gone. He's not going to be able to survive. So they couldn't take all of his sons. So who did go? So the 3 older sons, who were also very special people, and therefore, used to be that in the Jewish army, they took only people that have a lot of merit, that are Talmidei Chachamim, that are learned people, that are pious people, because when someone goes to war, if they don't have all of this merit, this is a good opportunity for God to, punish the person. So only the pious people would go to war, and we would. The Torah is telling us to tell those who don't have all the merit. If you're afraid that you're not going to make it because of your sins, please go home. So these 3 guys were very nice guys, very special people. And they went after Shaul. They were dedicated, and they went after. They joined the troops, la milchama, to the war. V'shem shloshet banav, and he's enumerating their names. Asher alchu b'milchama, the 3 boys that went to the war. Eliyav Bechor, the eldest, his name was Eliyav. Umishneo, the second one was Avinadav, and the third one was Shlishi Shama. V'David hu hakatan. Now, David was the youngest of the 8, right? V'shlosha agdolim alchu achei Shaul. So David is the youngest. The youngest has the responsibility to stay with his old father and take care of him. And so we don't know what happened to the other 4. We don't know here the names. It might be that we know the names later in Divrei Hayamim. I don't remember. But anyway. So David is the youngest one. V'David olech v'shav me'al Shaul. Now David has 2 obligations, right? On the one hand, he's the youngest, obligated to take care of his old father, obligated to his father asked him to take care of to be the shepherd, right? On the one hand. On the other hand, he got a new shiny job with Shaul to play the violin, right? So he would go back and forth. He had he was on the run. He was commuting back and forth. Me'al Shaul lirot et tzon aviv bet lachem. So he would go back and forth whenever checking on Shaul and if he needs his services, and then going back to the sheep, back to Bethlehem, back and forth. ויגש הפלישתי השכם והערב ויתייצב 40 יום. Now, remember Orpah? Orpah got a very good reward for shedding 4 tears. In addition to the 4 tears, she also went with Naomi a little bit, 40 steps. And then she reconsidered and went back home. Okay? So those 40 steps, this is an account of those 40 steps. Goliath got the merit of surviving 40 days in front of the Jews and cursing and, trying to taunting us. Now, what did he do? He would wake up early in the morning and in the evening and would curse us for 40 days in the morning and in the evening. Why? He knew that we say Shema Israel in the morning and in the evening. Now, when we say Shema Israel, what do we need to think about? Shulchan Aruch is telling us that God is one, and He is the King of 7 heavens and earth, and the 4 directions, and He is our God, and we are His people. And exactly when we need to have this kavanah, and without this kavanah, Shema Israel is not. It's like as if we didn't say it. This is one of the things that we must have a kavanah. We must think about this, what we're saying when we say Shema. So he chose at that time to intimidate us. You're going to say Shema to God? I'm here. Be afraid of me. So to distract us and to make us not say Shema properly, and while we say Shema, be fearful of this animal, and ruin the whole situation. And it was 40 days, because 40 days is the amount of days that we waited for Moshe to come down from Har Sinai. So there's a lot of 40 days in the Torah, as you all know. The flood was 40 days. It's a nice amount, for many reasons. I mean, it's mentioned in Kabbalah in several. It's not for now, but anyway. So for 40 days, Goliath would wake up in the morning and in the evening and curse us, and we were just frozen. Vayomer Ishai leDavid bno. So after 40 days, Ishai calls David and tells him, "Listen, your brothers went in a hurry to the fight, to the war, and they took with them some food. But 40 days came and gone, and they ran out of food probably, because I know how much food I gave them. And so they need to replenish. So, kach na leachecha efat hakali. So take this loaf, this loaf of kali. Kali is roasted grain. V'asara lechem, and take additional 10 loaves of bread. אפת הקלי הזה ועשרה לחם הזה, והרץ המחנה לאחיך, and run, give it in the camp to your brothers. ואת 10 חריצי החלב האלה תביא לשר האלף. And the 10 how do you say pieces of cheese, no? Those charitz cheese. Wedges of cheese. You should bring the Sar Elef, you should bring to the commander of that is in charge of 1,000 people. Who was that commander? That was Yonatan. We said before that Yonatan was the one in charge of 1,000 people. So he was. That's how Yonatan and David met and became friends essentially. So he sent to the commander. The three brothers were under the commandment of Yonatan, and so he sent him also some food, some gifts. And you should ask your brothers how they doing. What is arubatam? So arubatam, couple of opinions. One of them is just ask them how they're doing, and another one is in order for them to survive, they would give some of their possessions in order to get some money so they can buy food. So arrange, go back to the pawn shop and get back the pay back and get it all straightened out so they have back what they pawned out. And the third one is get the get from them, a divorce paper. This was the invention of Ishai. Ishai invented this, that when the rule is that when someone dies, a soldier dies in the field, they are buying the plot that they're falling on. You don't take them somewhere else. In those days, they didn't have a way to cool, cooling facilities. So they would bury the person on the spot, exactly where they die. No, they have a wife at home who would know who they are, and she would remain aguna. She would remain, not able to marry someone else. So Ishai invented this, where he would, any soldier who would go to war would give a get on a condition and say, if I don't come back in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, this get is effective, and you are no longer my wife to begin with, which that arrangement solved the problem, and we'll pick it up later again.